Lightning played two games over the course of this weekend, and both of those games were quite different. Plus, Conor Geekie is back, and Nikita Kucherov locked up the Art Ross. Is Geekie's return going to be helpful for the Lightning in the postseason?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And the first game we're going to talk about this weekend was on Friday, a Lightning overtime loss to the Detroit Red Wings. And it started off great. First minute of the game, Anthony Cirelli on a beautiful backhand pass through the entire Detroit defense from Hagel, and 1-0. Seemed like things were started off on the right foot. Lightning, both teams really kept on fighting. I think the face-off differential is something that is a little bit nerve-wracking for the postseason. Last couple of games, it seems like the face-off stats have been a lot more heavily skewed to the Lightning's opponents rather than Tampa Bay, and establishing possession by getting that face-off win is definitely important, and I think it's part of the reason that the Lightning have been outshot lately. They're not controlling the possession as much as they have in other games this season. And it ended up, I think, costing the Lightning later in the game because it was just those 2 second period goals, I think, especially that Patrick Kane one, just seemed to be somewhat circumstance. I mean, one of them, Vasilevsky, just completely lost in the net. And that second goal and another one that we're going to talk about in the Sabres game just involved the Lightning giving the puck away in their own zone. That's just something that happened way too much over the course of this weekend for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it just seems like some of these goals are preventable, but you love to see Gage Gonzalez take a deflected shot that just rolls right into the net. So, I mean, you look at that one goal that the Red Wings had that just Vasilevsky couldn't find, and maybe that deflected shot was kind of a makeup for it. Then the next goal, though, no doubt about it, a minute and a half into the third period, an absolute rip from Gage Gonzalez to tie the game up. To give the Lightning the lead, but not too long after, it just a nice long worked possession, and Kasper got the first one in. If you didn't think he deserved that one, he certainly did in overtime. But this was a game that you felt like the Lightning should have won. That's really the long and short of it. I think that Tampa, for the most part, I mean, their goals were just better worked, I think, than those of the Red Wings. And it just seemed, in some cases, it just felt like they earned them a little bit more. But, 4-3, still the final score. And the Lightning, a bit of a concerning stat. The Lightning are 4-5 in games completed in overtime, 6-8 in games that end past regulation, including shootouts. And in 3 of their last 4 games before Sunday, the Lightning were 1-0-3, 3 overtime losses. And that's just, I mean, you really just don't want to see that. You had the win against the Rangers, great. That's something that you really hope is going to happen again later in the season. But an overtime loss, a shootout loss to the Sabres, overtime losses to the Leafs and Red Wings. And it just seems like some of these games were preventable. And you hope that, the Lightning can get these out towards the end of the season. Did it cost them first place? Maybe. I think the Lightning had a chance, but I think the whole season, this seemed like the Maple Leafs division to lose. But, the Lightning certainly didn't help themselves. And it just seemed like there are points in the month of April, especially, that the Lightning just kind of shot themselves in the foot. And, doing that during the regular season is one thing, but if the Lightning continue this trend into the postseason, then they're not going to make it that far, plain and simple. I mean, you can't make game-altering mistakes in the playoffs and still expect to win series. And, hopefully the Lightning can get all this out now in the regular season, because even looking at this game, I think there were still some good things to see. First off, a big congratulations to Nikita Kucherov. Second most points by an active player at the time of their 800th game, even more than Alexander Ovechkin, only trailing Sidney Crosby, with currently Vasilevsky has just under 1,000 points. That's a milestone he's expected to hit next year. And he closed the gap on Nathan MacKinnon, the Art Ross race, in this one. 8 points under 1,000 for Nikita Kucherov. And if things go really well in these next two games, he might be able to celebrate that at the end of the season. Didn't have points in his 800th career game, had 989 after his 800th career game. Still pretty darn good. And Sidney Crosby, the only player with more in their 800th at 1,040. But I really think the best is yet to come for Nikita Kucherov. I mean, he just seems like he is not slowing down at all and really starting to hit his stride. I mean, he's 119 points now, including Sunday's game. He's 119 points at 76 games left in the season. If he played the entire year, there's no telling how high he could have gone in terms of his point count. And Nikita Kucherov just continues to be one of the best, if not the best, offensive player in the league. And Gage Gonzalez getting the game-tying and go-ahead goal, 4 points over his last 4 games, his first career multi-goal game against the Detroit Red Wings. And, I mean, again, we're going to talk about this more in the next segment in how it relates to Conor Geekie, but Gage Gonzalez, especially after a second stint in the AHL, is really looking like a guy who could be a key rotational player for the Tampa Bay Lightning down the road. Nice young player. His offensive game has so dramatically improved since he was recalled again from Syracuse. And he could play a key role, I think, for the Lightning in the postseason. I think that he'll be, a third-line guy once Bjorkstrand comes back, but the injury to Bjorkstrand in that game, I think it can help open up something for guys like Conor Geekie, who we're going to talk about in the next segment, and Gage Gonzalez, that, are new to the team, still trying to carve out a role, a more consistent role, and try to, get up on a line with more playing time. And Gonzalez, I think, has certainly earned a spot in the Lightning's rotation going forward. He has had such a great second half of the season, especially. And, for what is his first full season in the NHL, I think he's been great. And he's just getting better and better. And I think he has such a high ceiling, it seems. I mean, it's just, it doesn't seem like this is him reaching the peak of his talent at 24 years old. I think that there's a lot more that the Lightning can unlock from Gage Gonzalez. And I'm just excited to see him continue to develop. And that's also the case with Conor Geekie, as Oliver Bjorkstrand was, of course, in the game against the Detroit Red Wings, but is now considered week to week. He did not play on Sunday against the Sabres. And that is why Conor Geekie was recalled from AHL Syracuse and joined the Lightning on Sunday for the first time since the 1st of February. And we're going to talk about in the next segment why it already worked out once we look at the game. Geekie getting the goal, of course, in his first game back. it seemed to work out already, but I think that Conor Geekie getting recalled at this point in the season, this close to the playoffs, can only help a guy I think has a world of potential. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives your businesses flexibility by connecting them to top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. And Conor Geekie's back. I feel like he's a name that we didn't exactly forget about. I know he's a guy that I have a lot of hope for, a guy who I think has a ton of potential. And I think even in his first stint with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think he showed tremendous potential. In Geekie's first 49 games as a Bolt, he had 6 goals and 6 assists before he was sent back down to Syracuse, not because of his lack of talent or skill, but simply because the Lightning didn't have room for him in the NHL. And they figured sending him down to the AHL would help his development. It had already worked with Gage Gonzalez, and I truly believe that Gage Gonzalez's resurgence that really kind of began at the end of January is one of the reasons that the Lightning had to send Geekie down there, just to make some room for Gonzalez, be able to get him a little bit more playing time, as he had spent more time in the Lightning's minor league system than Conor Geekie has. And I don't think that Geekie took it the wrong way. I think he did exactly what you'd expect a young, hungry player like Conor Geekie to do. And he went down to the AHL, put in the work, and played great hockey and earned himself a call-up right back. He played 2 games in the Calder Cup playoffs in 2024. He was sent down and didn't score in his first game, but then had goals in the then had points in the next 2, and scored in almost every one of his 24 AHL games, 11 goals and 9 assists, with 8 on the power play and 2 game winners for Conor Geekie. And Geekie was always a player that when he was in the NHL, he brought the physicality as well as some solid offensive production. And I think him going down to the AHL was about just refining his game. And even John Cooper said that he came back a more mature player. And it seems like that his time in the AHL did exactly what it needed. And it's why I said at the beginning of the year that I wouldn't have been surprised if the Tampa Bay Lightning had just started Geekie in the AHL. I think that especially for a young player who had not played an NHL game, AHL was exactly what he needed just to get, some minutes, some prep for NHL hockey. And the Lightning decided to just throw him right into the fire. And I think at that point in the year, I think that was the right option. It just seemed like Geekie looked more NHL ready. He definitely played with a lot of confidence. Brings a nice physical defensive element to the game, as well as solid offense. And they figured that they'd get the most well-rounded hockey out of him rather than anyone else. But you look at some of the other players that the Lightning brought up over the course of the first 49 games where Geekie was in the NHL. Gage Gonzalez was someone that I think ate into some of his minutes. And, you look at the Lightning forwards and there were just a lot of players. And then the Lightning had to send Geekie down, not just for the development, but they also had to make room for Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand. It was a month after Geekie got sent down that the Bjorkstrand and Gourde deal went through for Tampa Bay. And I'm not saying that, that was foreshadowing at that point directly, but I think it wasn't exactly a secret that the Lightning were trying to make some moves. And obviously, especially at the deadline, when you're looking for some impact players, the other team who is trading those impact players is looking for prospects. Conor Geekie, I don't think was on the table. Gage Gonzalez, I don't think was on the table. So I feel like part of it was just to, protect Conor from teams trying to poach him in a trade. And it worked. I think the Lightning did a great job in keeping Geekie, keeping Isaac Howard. I think they made it pretty clear that those guys were not going to be trade pieces. And the Lightning made the move they had to do. Geekie got his development, and now he came back up in the NHL exactly, I think, the way the Lightning hoped and expected. Definitely more mature, more developed, a more polished game. And it showed out. I mean, he played solid defense and got himself a goal in his first game of the NHL in 2.5 months. And it's impressive. It really is. And it just shows the development that he was able to go through in the AHL. And it just shows how important that is for a young player starting their NHL career. And I think that it was the right move for the Lightning. I mean, again, I thought that it might not have been the worst idea at the beginning of the season to start Geekie in the AHL. But he made the team out of camp. He certainly deserved that. And I don't think there are going to be too many people around the Lightning that are going to tell you any different, that, maybe it was the thought to have Geekie in the AHL at the start of the season. But he earned that spot out of camp. And whatever the narrative was on him, he changed it with a great preseason. And he didn't fall out of the NHL. The Lightning just needed to put some other players on the ice, give some other guys some more opportunities, and give Conor Geekie a better opportunity to develop his game in the AHL, because the Lightning certainly believe that he's a big part of what they're going to be doing in the future. They wouldn't have traded a guy like Mikhail Sergachev for Conor Geekie if they didn't believe in him. And I think, honestly, them sending him to the AHL just affirmed that. And then he comes back and proves them right. He came from Syracuse the morning of the game and picked up a goal within his first 15 minutes back in the NHL. Really, you really have to be impressed with a guy like that getting sent down after all this preseason hype, all this talk about how he can be such a high level prospect. And then he gets sent down in the middle of the season. That can break some players. In hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever it is, I've seen it break some players. Guys just getting a bad reaction to getting sent down. But it did the opposite for Geekie. I think it really kind of supercharged his development a little bit, and it really helped him out. But I think the biggest reason that this is going to help out Geekie for the postseason, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is just getting younger players like that experience to playoff hockey early on, experience to important games early in their careers, helps them become better leaders down the road and helps them just, familiarize themselves with those big situations that you all dream about. I mean, I'm sure Conor Geekie's like every other kid who was imagining himself in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals while he, shot the puck against his garage with his dad looking on and doing the play-by-play. But there's a big difference between that and actually being in, those playoff games, those meaningful end of the season games. And, now he's back up at a key time of the season for Tampa and back into the fire once again. And I think that can certainly help turn Geekie into, a more mature player and a better leader once he, really reaches that veteran status. So I think that the Lightning did a great job with Geekie's development so far, and I just remain excited for what he's going to do over the course of his NHL career, because I'm truly a believer in Conor Geekie's talent, and he certainly showed why in Sunday's game against Buffalo. That had a great start, then it got a little rocky, and then the Lightning really shut the door on a division rival in a 7-4 victory. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 100% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And the Tampa Bay Lightning had a big game against the Buffalo Sabres, setting up what for them is really a winner-take-all contest against the Florida Panthers. And first and foremost, I think that John Cooper benching Andrei Vasilevsky, the best goalie in the NHL, in a divisional game that the Lightning frankly needed to win to stay one step ahead of the Panthers. I think benching Vasilevsky to give him an extra night of rest before the game against the Panthers was a great move. Because yes, this was a big game for Tampa Bay. Absolutely. Like I don't want to diminish the fact that the Lightning needed to win this game to stay a step ahead of the Panthers and still have a possibility to win their division. The Maple Leafs, if they lose the next 2 games and the Lightning win the next 2 in regulation, the Lightning could still win the Atlantic. I mean, there is still an outside chance that happens. But you go back before the game, Lightning and Panthers tied on points at 98. Lightning have a game in hand. There is nothing that could have been done that would have stopped Tuesday's game against Florida from being a essentially winner-take-all game in the second spot in the Atlantic Division. It's going to be the last game for the Panthers, as the Panthers are playing the New York Rangers tonight, and the Rangers have an opportunity to play spoiler for both teams on each side of the showdown on Tuesday between the Lightning and the Panthers, that we're going to talk about at length in tomorrow's episode. But, again, not diminishing the need to win this game, but if the Lightning lost this, it would have probably cost them first in the Atlantic, but it would have just put more pressure on Tuesday's rivalry game against the Panthers. So even if Johansson had a terrible game, but he's a very capable backup, it still wouldn't have sunk the Lightning in terms of what they're trying to do in the postseason. And I just love the idea of Vasilevsky getting the lead off. And it started off great for the Lightning in the first period. That first shot from Braden Point should have went in. The next shot after that was just completely stolen out of the air by Reimer. He made some incredible saves last night for Buffalo. The next shot was the rebound by Jake Gensel. You just knew something was coming. And the Lightning were playing fantastic hockey in that first period up until the last minute. And honestly, like, I don't even know if I can begin to describe what happened. The Lightning just kind of, you know, it was like a brain fart. It just seemed like a gap, and the Lightning just kind of lost it. They just lost control of the puck, and just two very preventable giveaways in the last 30 seconds to a minute of a hockey in that first period. But something that, and it's not like this is the first time that we have seen something like this happen from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, it's a long season. Sometimes the team has mental lapses and you give up more than you should at certain moments in the game. But I love the way the Lightning came back. An emphatic goal from Ryan McDonagh, who is not your usual goal scorer. I mean, that's not what he's on the ice to do. He is on the ice to just block shots and lock people down defensively like only the Mack truck can do. But that really started the run. And I didn't want to say it. I was frightened to say it, but I was dying to put out on Twitter that Ryan McDonagh goal really felt like okay, we're back kind of moment. Because, it just kind of any boo birds that were out there, shut up immediately. Any doubts you might have had about, oh no, the Lightning are really gonna give this game away like they almost did the last time they played the Sabres at home. It just really felt like the Lightning were back. And then Nikita Kucherov clinched the Art Ross trophy, as it was reported Nathan MacKinnon would not play in the Avalanche game later last night. He did not. So Nikita Kucherov, congratulations. You have won your second consecutive Art Ross trophy, 119 points and counting. And I think there's even a chance that he takes down Nathan MacKinnon in terms of the league assist lead as well. MacKinnon 3 points behind Kucherov, and Kucherov is 1 assist behind Nathan MacKinnon. So there's a very real chance that Kuch ends up with not just the points lead, but the assist lead in the entire NHL. And give him the Hart Trophy too. Just do it right now. Give it to him, please. Just do it. He's going to win it anyway. Just give it to him. Kucherov, 2 goals and an assist, his 17th 3-point game of the season in 76 games this year. He now stands level with Martin St. Louis for second most 3-point games in Lightning history. He needs 48 to overtake Steven Stamkos. So, Hart Trophy for Nikita Kucherov. I think we can all agree on that. But that second period was one of the best periods of Lightning hockey I've seen all season. And that's the kind of period that I want for all 3 periods against Florida on Tuesday and all throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. Constant pressure, confident attack. I mean, that's just what Lightning hockey should look like. And it produced goals from, everyone. Emil Lilleberg got his first career goal. Conor Geekie got back on the board for the first time in months in his first NHL game in over 2 months. The Lightning spread the puck around at the end of the second period. They had 12 different goal scorers. Jake Gensel ended up getting his 40th goal on a power play in the third period. And even in the third period, the Lightning were still in control. The Sabres were just fighting back. You have to give them a lot of credit for getting some well-worked goals at the end of the period. Even that last goal of the game, which may have just been, all right, we've already got this game won. The Lightning just kind of let them have that. But this was a solid offensive game. Definitely, I think some things on defense need to be tightened up before the game against Florida. But offensively, that's how I want to see the Lightning play in the playoffs. They just need to just keep their foot on the gas and stay focused on defense, because some of those goals, I think, were very preventable. I said the same thing about the game against the Red Wings, but, the last couple of games, you really feel like the goals the Lightning gave up were mostly on defensive lapses, on preventable giveaways, on careless mistakes that need to stop before the postseason. And the Lightning do have 2 more games to work that out, but Tuesday is a playoff game, more or less. If the Lightning win, they can lock up that second seed in the Atlantic Division, especially if the Panthers lose on Monday to the New York Rangers, who have the opportunity, in a sense, to play spoiler for both teams. But that's something that we'll talk about more on tomorrow's show. And for today's purposes, I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today and every day. Please give us a like, a follow, and subscribe on our social media channels. We're at LO_Lightning on X and Instagram. And make sure to follow and subscribe to our channels as well, wherever you watch today's podcast. And for your second listen today, make sure to check out the brand new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champ is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Wherever you found this podcast, again, please give us a like, a follow, and subscribe. We do the show for you guys and really appreciate you guys tuning in. So thank you again for listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a big preview between the final rivalry showdown of the regular season. Until then, though, thanks again for listening and have a great start to your week.